Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns. The Shield, one of WWE's most dominant stables in the last few decades, has unfortunately come to an end recently. Welcome back, everyone. This is Jason. This video is kind of a tribute to the Shield. Don't worry, I'm not going to see a grown man cry or nothing. Although I have to say how the whole thing went down shocked me. Well, not that it happened shocked me, how it happened shocked me. Because I think a lot of other fans assumed that it was going to be Dean Ambrose and not Seth Rollins that was going to be, making an exit and, starting the breakup of the Shield. And then over the course of, a couple weeks, it looked like it was just going to be a two-man group between Reigns and Ambrose against the Authority. But now, when we looked at this past Monday Night Raw, there was no remaining team members of Shield together at all. There was no. I think a lot of fans, including myself, expected some kind of match of Reigns and Ambrose versus someone, either someone from the Authority or someone that the Authority put into play against the Shield, the remaining members, and that just didn't happen. It started out with Seth Rollins in his match against Dolph Ziggler for the third time, which I gotta say was pretty damn good. And Ambrose comes out and I'm telling you, the fangirls who were fans of Jon Moxley are absolutely going cuckoo right now, because it looks like Dean Ambrose has now gone back to that old look he had in the Indies and in FCW, when he was doing the extreme matches and whatever, wearing the jeans and the tank top and stuff like that, cutting the promos, or wrestling like that too. It looks like that's what he's going back to now. And for the first time in two plus years, we are seeing that old psychotic side of Dean Ambrose that all of us have come to know and love, those of us who are big fans of Dean Ambrose. We'll talk about each of the members a little bit. Each of the guys I started really watching, and I started hearing about, different guys coming up from the Indies or in the developmental territory of the FCW. It's one thing I've always kept track of over the years, in some way, shape, or form. In some way, keeping track of who's the next guy coming up, who's the up and coming guy, who's, what's the next guy that the buzz is on. I've always been very curious about that, still am. For example, the hot buzz about who's coming up now is guys like Prince Devitt and Kevin Steen and guys like that have just recently signed with the WWE. Over the course of the next few months, you'll start hearing more tidbits about them, finally getting down to Florida and, cutting their teeth in the WWE developmental system. what really started it for me, and I don't know if I've told this story on here before, but if I'm repeating myself, please forgive me, but I love telling this story. Back when Daniel Bryan got canned from NXT, got fired for doing the chokeout on the announcer. I can't remember his name. But nonetheless, when he got fired, he started doing independent dates. And he was gone for a majority of the summer. And then he got called back a few months later. But when he got called back, he had, X amount of dates, 3 or 4 dates still contracted to fill out. He didn't want to just cut these promoters short. He wanted to, fulfill his obligations. So WWE let him, and one of those was with Dragon Gate USA. They came to town here in Milwaukee, and the night before they were down in Chi-Town in Chicago, and I can't remember who he wrestled down there, but it was one of the Japanese guys, I think. And I don't remember what happened in that one. One of my friends went down there for that one. But then the next day, they were planning on coming up here to Milwaukee, had a gig, and I heard that Daniel Bryan was going to be wrestling a guy named Jon Moxley. Okay? And so, I started getting excited about this. And because a couple of my friends were like, you're not going to see anything like this in the WWE. This is going to be a really unique, special show. So I go to this Dragon USA show, and they were right. I'd never seen anything like that before. The action in this show was absolutely, bar none, one of the best wrestling shows I'd ever been to in my entire life. The action was just non-stop insane. In fact, another guy that was actually at that show, come to think of it, was Brody Lee, aka Luke Harper, one of the Wyatt guys. He was in there. He was part of some Battle Royal match or something. He ended up winning. So that was my first taste of that guy too. But back to the Shield and Dean Ambrose and Jon Moxley. If you look up on YouTube the promos on there, my first taste of Jon Moxley, Dean Ambrose, was a promo he cut. Look up Jon Moxley, Dragon Gate USA. Look for the one that he's talking to Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson at the time, his real indie name. That promo is just sick. It's priceless. It's one of my favorites of his, and he is finally starting to sound like that again. He had chances to do that in the Shield, just not as much. He was always with the other two. He didn't have a chance to really cut loose and be himself. I mean, he was always right on the edge of it, but it seemed like they were holding him back from it. Now, oh my God, he has gone completely haywire and letting it all loose and letting his true self show. And watching him the rest of this summer is going to make this summer one of my favorite times to watch. That I have not been this excited. I mean, yeah, it's a bummer the Shield is done, but I have not been this excited about this bunch of guys since they debuted 2 years ago. So yeah, I saw that match between Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson live. just insane. And watching those two guys really just let go and tear it up gave me a really decent taste of what, you know, these guys were truly like in the ring, not holding anything back. Even came complete with the old Europe Final Countdown theme for Bryan Danielson. Yeah, just a priceless match. So from there on, you know, I was really interested in finding out what this, you know, Jon Moxley was like. And then over the course of the next year or so, the buzz was starting about him leaving Dragon Gate USA and joining the WWE developmental down in FCW before it became NXT, its own brand. So there was that. And then around the same time, all these guys joined around the same time. Seth Rollins did too. He was Tyler Black in Ring of Honor. And man, it's another guy that is so fun to watch. Just crazy. I mean, okay, yeah, now he's wearing a suit and he's part of the, you know, the authority, and he's like, you know, their guy, whatever, their chump, or he's gonna do their bidding because he knows he's gonna get something in return, which might be coming up soon. But seeing this guy come up through the leagues in FCW, become the first, was it Jack Briscoe 15 champ? And I never researched it much, but it was like a medal, kind of like Kurt Angle's medal, and they wore that, so it was kind of like, I guess, their version of like the Intercontinental title down in FCW, I guess, is kind of what it was. It was like, okay, now you're the next step up from becoming the champ, in a sense. So, you know, he was their first champ doing that. He also was FCW champ down there for a while. And do yourself a favor, if you've never seen it before, go look it up on YouTube. The promos are there. The matches are all on there. Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins wrestled each other. I know it was more than once. 2 or 3 times, I believe. Go check out those matches. Just awesome matches. I can't say enough about them. And they're not squash matches either. They're like, you know, 20-minute, half-hour long matches too, some of them. There's even, if you do a little research, they were going for the FCW championship, the 3 of them, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins, a 3-way match to be the number 1 contender to get the shot at the title. And Reigns wasn't called Reigns at the time. He was called Liaki, I believe that was his name. It was a Samoan name. But nonetheless, yeah, they all had different attire, you know, trunks, and you know, they looked basically the same, you know, but just different gear, you know. And that's another fun match. Go look that up. The 3 of them facing off each other in FCW. Then something interesting happened. FCW got rebranded as NXT. FCW was no more. And I was really looking forward to seeing Dean Ambrose, most of all, in NXT. And, you know, weeks and months went by, and they started talking about the new championship. You know, they were doing a tournament, and Dean wasn't a part of it. And then you started hearing buzz about him doing house shows, but you just heard little things here and there. It was nothing consistent. It was, oh, he did a show with this guy, and something would show up on YouTube, and oh, there's a clip of him in this town and this dark match, and oh, now he cut a controversial promo saying that they're too afraid to put him on television. And it was like, wow, you know, what are they doing with him? You know, they got him on tour. He's not in NXT, but he's not really on the main roster yet. You know, what are they doing with him? And it kind of felt like he was just in limbo. And it was like, man, just, you know, cut the cord on this guy. Just, you know, let him go or bring him up, you know, put him on TV. And that cult following, I think, really started, you know, a couple of years ago in the house shows and the stuff on YouTube. People really started paying attention to him. The ones that didn't know about him that much. And I was certainly following him a lot. And then Seth Rollins was in the tournament for the NXT Championship. He became the first NXT champ. And what were they doing with Roman? Roman had some singles matches. He was also injured for a while too, I think. He was off TV for a while, came back as kind of like the corporate guy. He was wearing a suit here and there. They weren't really doing anything special with him. He was just kind of one of the guys. And then all of a sudden, the fall of 2012, right before, what was it, Survivor Series, this little article, I'm reading it on ringsidenews.com, this little article coming up. It's like one paragraph long, saying, you know, like, oh, by the way, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins were spotted in the same town that Survivor Series is going to be at. And it was like, okay, great, whatever, fine. Didn't think nothing of it. It was just like, oh, that's nice. You know, they're probably gonna do some dark matches in the area or something, you know, at house shows. Wouldn't even fathom that they were going to make their debut at Survivor Series and just run roughshod all over Ryback. I remember when they debuted, I was sitting on the couch and I just about jumped off my damn couch. I was so excited to see these guys. My girlfriend's staring at me and I'm just freaking out, almost falling on the floor. I was so excited to see them. And, man. It was one of those things where, you know, now when they bring someone up, they do promo. After they do like a month's worth of promos, you know, they'll show a promo on Raw, they'll show a promo on SmackDown, on Main Event, on Superstars, on all the different shows about so-and-so's coming up, this is their look, this is their gimmick, blah, 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 blah. These guys came out of nowhere. You barely knew their names. You know, if you were following them, you knew their names. But for the casual fan, no one had a clue who these guys were, you know? No promos, no intro, no nothing. Just boom. Out of nowhere, 3D, in your face. It was, oh, so awesome. And, you know, and it just snowballed from there with these guys. It was so well played. And now you hear about, you know, interviews, you know, how it was brought up, and it really did come out of nowhere. It didn't seem like there was a ton of planning behind it at all. You know, they're wearing all black, and then it started as the gear, the riot gear and stuff like that. And those first few months, man, was so exciting to see some of my favorite guys, you know, really cutting their teeth, shocking the world, showing everyone from the bottom of the roster to the top, taking on everyone and showing that work ethic that they, well, you know, really did brag about the whole time, but didn't really talk about it much until the last like half year that they were around this year, you know, 2014. And man, from their first pay-per-view bombing Ryback to their first big win at WrestleMania, and then their championships they won, the tag champs, beating Team Hell No, Dean Ambrose. Now, you love him, you hate him, whatever. You know, you can't blame him, and you can't be pissed at him for not defending his championship. That's not his fault. I'm proud of him for the numbers that he put up, you know, because he was the longest reigning WWE United States champion. You know, and he will be forever. He's got that nailed. No one's going to pass that up. You know, and if they are, it's going to be years before it's done again. Years and years, probably decades. They could have. He could have defended it more, but like I said, it's not his fault. Usually, whatever the Shield was doing was bigger than the belts they had, and that was just part of their, you know, their power ride. You know, taking out this group, taking out that group, taking out this top guy, taking out that top guy. They took out The Rock, Cena, Ryback, Punk, you name it. They took them out on the roster, top to bottom, you know, and then all the way to the end when they got lined up with, you know, in their second WrestleMania appearance. It was a little disappointing for who they faced, but they made the best of it. They put on a good show. It was Kane and the New Age Outlaws, and they made the best of it, you know, and they showed everyone, no matter who they go up against, they put on a damn good show, and they did that with everyone from top to bottom. And I'm so incredibly proud of those guys. It's because of those guys and following them that changed me as a wrestling fan. Because for years on end, I was the typical wrestling fan. You cheer the good guy, you boo the bad guy. And when these guys debuted, they debuted as, you know, some of the biggest heels in the company, biggest bad guys, and I didn't care, you know. I was, no matter what they did, I was so excited to see them. I was going to cheer them no matter what. And, you know, people were like, you like them? I was like, hell yeah, I like them. Every flippin', you know, media thing I was on, you know, Facebook, ringsidenews.com. Then I, you know, was on YouTube. For every, you know, profile pic I had was Dean Ambrose. Some psychotic looking pic of Dean Ambrose. Yeah, because it's my favorite guy. And now the fact that, you know, the Shield's broke up, but everybody's doing their own thing. Seth and Dean are going to have one of the biggest rivalries of the summer, and oh, it's getting hot. It's getting big, and they're probably going to end up having. They're either going to have a match at Money in the Bank, or something else is going to happen. Nonetheless, Dean Ambrose is finally going to get his hands on Seth Rollins. Somehow, someway at the next pay-per-view in 2 weeks. And Roman Reigns looks like he's getting the biggest push of them all because he is in the Money in the Bank Championship ladder match. Not for the briefcase, but for the championship. And there's so many question marks that go along with that, you know, but that'll be in my preview vid next week. We'll have to see how these next few shows go, see what it looks like. You know, it's really hard to tell. You know, everybody's got their favorites or who they think is gonna end up being champ, but you know, it's really hard to tell. So, you know, the Shield is done, but man, they are, you know, sometimes when the stable breaks up, everyone kind of goes their own way, their momentum is done, they start fighting with each other, and it just kind of gets pushed back somewhere, you know, not important anymore. They get pushed to the bottom of the card, and they end up on Superstars or you know mid card on the main event show, and just forgotten about. These guys, even though the Shield is done now, it is clearly not going to happen. If you watched Raw and heard the pop that Cleveland gave, heard the boos that Cleveland gave Seth Rollins, and B, gave, you know, the pop to Dean Ambrose, you can tell this whole thing it's ready to explode. It really is. It's so exciting to watch. Yeah. So, yeah, the Shield is done, but man, just buckle up, because it's going to be a fun-ass summer, let me tell you. You know, I don't know what they're all going to do. You know, who they're going to face, what rivalries are coming up, but that's a beautiful thing, you know. When they were the Shield, it's like there was only so many groups of people that they could face, and it became kind of predictable. So I think, as much as it's, you know, sucks, they went out on top and they took care of the biggest bad guys at the end. They knocked off Evolution, the Authority, and they won that battle. They didn't win the war, but they won the battle. And you know, what else can you do with them, you know, unless you bring in a brand new, you know, group out of nowhere, which it almost seemed like they were maybe hinting around at it. Some guys down in NXT are getting pretty hungry, and might get brought up soon, and that's the Ascension. And right after the Shield beat Evolution, the Ascension started tweeting about that, saying, hey, you know, better look out, because we're coming soon. So when they get to the main roster, it doesn't look like they're going to be facing the Shield at all. But, you know, whatever the Ascension does, they're an incredible tag team. That's another team. If you don't know who the Ascension is, well, do yourself a favor, go look them up. Get the network, go find some NXT episodes. Go check them out. Good team coming up from Florida. So that's it. That's my thoughts on the Shield breaking up. A little tribute to them, talking about them, how much I love them. Still love all the guys, love what they're doing. Even Seth, you know, he's a corporate guy now, but man, he's so fun to watch. Not boring in the least. All these guys got their own spark, you know. Got that fire lit. It's gonna burn all summer long and then some, and far beyond that as well. So that's my thoughts on the Shield. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you for the next one soon. Peace.